If you like chips like Doritos but aren't crazy about the bloat and brain fog that comes with them, then these crunchy kale chips will satisfy your snack tooth while increasing your gut's greatness and your well-being. These crunchy kale chips are the easiest way to pack more greens into your diet without salads, so stick around to the end to become a kale chip cooking master and learn the easiest way to make my 3 favorite kale chips with nutritional yeast in your oven. They're naturally dairy-free and gluten-free, and you'll learn how to avoid the most common mistakes so you don't end up with burnt or boring kale chips. Let's get cooking.
First, we're going to want to de-stem our kale, and there's a really easy way to do it. Simply hold the base of the stem with one hand and pinch your fingers at the base of the leaves with the other, and then slide that hand down the stem and all the leaves will come off with it. Next, we're going to want to rinse our leaves. You can either do it in a bowl like I am here or simply do it under the sink. Either way is fine. Then just place your leaves on a towel so they can dry. You can either roll it up in the towel and bang it around like I'm doing here to get all the water off, or you can put it in a salad spinner. I don't have one, so I do it this way. Once the leaves dry, measure out 4 cups of kale leaves, or you can simply use 1 bunch of kale. In general, you'll want to have nice and big kale leaves for nice and big kale chips. But if there are any kale pieces that have long tails or just seem oddly shaped, go ahead and tear those up into pieces. Now it's time to make the sauce. We're going to make the classic cheesy sauce first because this is going to serve as the base for our pepperoni pizza kale chips and our spicy nacho kale chips. To make the classic cheesy kale chips, you're going to want to add a 1/3 cup nutritional yeast, an 1/8 teaspoon garlic powder, a 1/4 cup of tahini, a 1/4 cup of raw cashews, a 1/3 cup of water, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, and an 1/8 teaspoon of salt to a blender or a food processor, or you can just chop up your nuts and mix it all up by hand. The idea is, in general, the water gives you the consistency to be able to spread it over the kale chips. So if you need to add a little more water, go for it. Just keep in mind that you might need to bake the kale chips longer to dehydrate them later. To make the spicy nacho kale chips, start with the classic cheesy sauce and add a 1/2 bell pepper that's chopped, a 1/4 teaspoon of chipotle powder, and a 1/4 cup of Kalamata olives, or any olives really. Make sure that the bell pepper and olives are ground into really small chunks because you don't want huge pieces of bell pepper or olives in your final kale chips because they will take too long to dehydrate and they will create a mushy or soft bite. If you want to make the pepperoni pizza kale chips, then start with the classic cheesy kale chip sauce and then add a 1/2 cup of pepperoni, and you can totally sub vegan pepperoni to keep these 100% vegan, 1/8 cup sun-dried tomatoes in oil, and then add 1.5 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. Next, add the sauce to your kale pieces, and then I like to use my hands to mix it up because really you want to make sure that every inch of the kale on both sides is completely covered in sauce. If there is any areas that is not covered in sauce, that is going to be a boring bite. If you taste test your sauce, you may notice that it is mildly salty, and that is perfect. That's exactly what we're going for, because if it's perfectly salty now, it's going to be too salty when we dehydrate it because the kale pieces are going to dehydrate and everything is going to get more concentrated. So just make sure you don't oversalt it. Then you're going to spread your kale out on a cookie sheet one by one. You're going to open up the leaves and lay them out flat with a little bit of space in between each other. The idea here is that you don't want the kale overlapping on itself because if it's too thick, it's going to take longer to dehydrate and it may end up being a soggy bite. Now it's time to dehydrate the kale chips in our oven. To dehydrate faster than we bake, we're going to want to bake these at the lowest heat setting that our oven will go. At 170 degrees, it takes about 2 hours or so to fully dehydrate these kale chips. And every 30 minutes, check on the kale chips to make sure they're not overcooking or to see if you need to rotate your pans. You'll know the kale chips are done when they're nice and crispy and there's no soggy spot. So check a few pieces and look for the thickest sauce areas in your kale chips and make sure that those ones too have fully dehydrated. Kale chips are so delicious, and you'll know you got it right when they are perfectly crispy and crunchy, but not burnt. I hope you enjoyed making these, and I hope you enjoy eating them even more. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. This has been so much fun. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this and subscribe to my channel. I am going to make more videos for you so that you can take the heart out of health and eat well with ease. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.